Today on LTV, I'm talking about what every founder needs to know about creating a great user experience. Hi, I'm Kyle Racki, and today what I want to talk about is user experience as it relates to building a startup. So the reason I'm creating this video is because I find that when I talk to founders, they usually fall in one of two camps. So they're either the computer science engineering person who has the technical chops to build a product, and not necessarily the sales and marketing side, or I find it's somebody with a sales background or deep industry knowledge. So it could be a lawyer who's building an app for lawyers. What I rarely find is a founder who has a deep knowledge and experience of user experience and design. And as SaaS continues eating the world, the best products and the fastest growing companies are the ones that create an incredible user experience, whether it's a consumer app or for enterprise. It has to be well designed, it has to be easy to use and simple. And so what I wanted to do with this episode is talk about user experience because it's my background, it's where I came from, and hopefully shed some light for founders who are kind of struggling with how do I create an amazing looking app that feels great, that's easy to use. And what I actually really want to get through is the idea that it's not just a matter of you hiring a designer to do it. User experience is a lot more than just design, and you as a founder can actually learn the basics of UX and do it yourself without needing to hire somebody, at least right away. So let's dig into UX. So the first thing I just want to make clear is that there is a difference between user experience or UX and design. Visual design definitely relates to crafting a great user experience, but user experience is a lot more of a broad umbrella term for creating a product that people love, and it touches everything from the customer support they receive to the copy that they might see within the product. Obviously, design is a huge component of it, but user experience is a lot more than design. There's a great book that I recommend everybody check out. It's called Killer UX Design, and it's from SitePoint. It's written by Jody Mole, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And she gives a great example in this book of what UX is. So she went to a cafe. She loves iced coffee, and she ordered one. But the thing she hates about iced coffee is that it gets watered down because of the ice cubes. And so eventually once the ice cube melts, it dilutes the flavor of the coffee. And what she noticed when she drank this coffee from this particular cafe was that they actually used coffee as the ice cubes. They froze coffee. And so that as the ice melted, it didn't become watered down. And that was a great example of how somebody out there recognized a problem in the experience of this iced coffee, and they came up with a solution for it. So to the user, it just felt like it just worked. It tasted great, and it's like they thought of everything. That's really the response that you want to elicit from users when you create a great user experience with your product. We've all used great products, and some of the best ones in the world, like Slack, for example. It feels like they just work. No matter what you try, when you're uploading a file or posting a GIF, it always just feels smooth and seamless and even fun. And so everybody can achieve that if they understand the basic foundation of UX. So what do you need to know about user experience? First of all, recognize the fact that it's really a lot more about research and understanding people than it is about design. So you can hire a designer to actually implement your UX research or come up with ideas for visual layouts or interfaces, but you can't really do that without really understanding how people are using your product, where they're getting hung up. And to do that actually you don't need a PhD by any means or even really college level training. Anybody can learn UX. So I already talked about the book Killer UX Design. I highly recommend reading that. But really the thing to think about is, how can you deliver an amazing experience for your customers? And, so it's everything from doing user testing, where you actually sit people down and watch them use your product and make sure that you're doing it in a way that isn't biased, because founders are guilty of this all the time, is when they're surveying people or interviewing customers, they're kind of leading the witness. They're trying to get the answer that makes them feel good, as opposed to doing it in a very kind of clinical, scientific way that makes sure that you're actually getting good, valuable feedback. that's going to help guide you and make your product better. You're not just being told what you want to hear. The other thing to know too is that UX is not a one-time thing. I sometimes hear founders talk about hiring a designer to basically build version 1 of their product just as a freelancer or a contractor, as a one-time project. And so just remember that whatever you design and put out there into the world, it's probably going to fail. And what you want to do from a UX research standpoint is design something, put it out there, and start measuring it, start analyzing people's behavior, talking to them, taking all their feedback into consideration, and using that to guide and iterate on that design. It's much more of a journey than it is a destination. And no matter what product you've got out there, no matter how long it's been around, I guarantee you there are still teams of people working on it to try to figure out how to make it even better than it is. So again, if you're a founder who doesn't necessarily have access to anybody with UX knowledge and experience, you can learn this yourself, and you can get the basics done yourself. And so, I've talked a bit about the research component, about user testing, about asking the right questions. The other thing is, how do you actually come up with something to test? The great thing is that there are products out there nowadays that actually make this easy for non-technical or non-designers to be able to do. You can use tools like Balsamiq or InVision, which create wireframing tools that you can prototype, you can make things that users can actually click through and use. Even though they're not real, it's not actually functioning on the back end. It looks like it works, and it's something that you can put in front of somebody and watch how they behave, what they click on, so that you can say things like, go find out how to create a new proposal in your theoretical proposal app. And instead of trying to guide them and say, click on the top right screen where there's, the new proposal button, actually just ask them very broad, ask them to complete broad tasks and watch what they do, and then start create a video of it, and then you kind of go back and see like what questions are they asking as they talk aloud about how they're thinking and feeling about your product. So you can use these tools to create prototypes. In the UX world, we call them low fidelity prototypes because they don't look great. They don't look how they're going to look in the end. But essentially, once you have a wireframe that works in a clickable prototype, you can then hand that off to a designer who can make it look good and polish it up and make the buttons, look clickable. That would be more in the high fidelity prototyping stage. So as a founder without the UX background, you can actually figure out and learn how to do your own prototyping, your own testing. And that's a great skill to know as a founder, and to have that under your belt before you even get to the point where you can hire a designer. The other thing to remember too when you're creating these prototypes is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I like to think of UX design as being a lot more like a DJ than a composer. So you can actually go out there and find the products you like and the ones you think have great interfaces, and you can just steal components of them. In UX, they call that design patterns. So we all use design patterns all the time without even really realizing it. When you use a calendar app, they all follow a certain kind of pattern. When you're scrolling a list, right, that follows a design pattern because dozens, hundreds of apps all out there basically work the same when you're scrolling a new list. Nobody really reinvented the wheel on that. So it's actually a good thing to follow design patterns because users are comfortable with them. They already know how they work, so they don't actually need to teach themselves something new. Okay, so while this episode wasn't, all-encompassing as it comes to UX, it's a deep topic that you could learn a lot more about. Like I said, read some books, read some blogs, and educate yourself because it's not a dark art. It doesn't require years of training to figure out. And if you learn the basics, then you can actually create the foundation for a great product that you can then begin to scale when you are able to hire a team. Hope you found that episode valuable. I'd love to know what you think in the comments, and bye for now.
This episode of Lifetime Value is brought to you by Proposify. Proposify improves sales productivity so your team spends less time creating proposals and more time selling. Start your free trial at proposify.com and be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a single episode.